was supporting us, yeah, he was supporting us. And so, because, like I said, I think the reason I wrote it was that it was so obvious, you know what I mean? Like, how could you say this block of Lucas Square? There were other blocks that you might be able to say businesses coming in and out after a while. Oh, I know, this was one cool thing that always resonated with me. You know, when things resonate, you get a chance to share them. We got news coverage and stuff, and the fellow that owns Decoria Furniture, his name's Tim Kinley, husband and wife, and he looked in the camera, and nobody was expecting him to do this, but he goes, when I left communist Vietnam, I never once thought that the government of the United States would be coming for my property. You know what I mean? It was very like spine-chilling thing. So it was very, because we had these people, you know, who were very passionate about making sure it didn't go down. Because I think that's, you know, our voices, you know, back to, it really does matter. I mean, that's why I say it was the most grassroots thing I ever got involved in, and to win, it felt, you know, it felt good in that way. But you will get, you know, ask questions on this definition of it, you know, the government taking private property for public use. I say be familiar with what we just talked about. There's a U.S. Supreme Court case. You don't have to know the name of it. But I will, in the next, you know, 6 days we're still together, there'll be 2 court cases. This was called the new Kalo versus Mississippi London. Don't memorize that one, but I'll let you know the 2 court cases that are mentioned here that you will get tested on. So we've talked about the power of taxation in the lien chapter, because that's what, you know, a county property tax ends up being. It's a tax lien on the property. What's a lien? A charge on real, you know, on real property, and a charge or claim, you could say. And, you know, basically, Sam always asks the question, but, you know, I'm like, well, people will say yes or no. Do you think taxes are a good thing? Because the whole point is, whether you say yes or no, that's how the United States government is built on. Taxes run our government. So, you know, we wouldn't have the government services. I mean, we don't have any right now, right? But the taxation is obviously a huge governmental power that I told you gets levied the first day of each year that county property tax is going to be applied to the specific property. And then the last, so it speaks for itself, basically, right, guys? But it's the power to tax. I mean, it's the power to put a charge on real property. That's what taxation is. And then this little tiny power here, compared to the other 3, it means to revert. Now, just like I was saying, this to take has a legal connotation in it when you're in property law. This word to revert in property law, I always do this. It like packs a punch to it. It has a strength to it. So we'll learn some stuff we're about to learn here, where things that they revert in property law, they're going straight back, usually like operation of law, like nothing else has to happen. And what I'm talking about usually is title reverting back to someone or getting in somebody's hands. So what this law is, as cheap, it's for the instance when someone dies. If you've never heard these words before, we're going to learn them in chapter 10. Intestate, meaning they didn't die testate. They didn't have a testamentary document. They didn't have a will or a trust. You die intestate. If you got one of those, you got a testamentary document. Otherwise, you die intestate. Every state in the U.S. has a statute that speaks to, in persons that die intestate, the descent and distribution of their estate, of what they own. The state's not going to say just because you didn't get around to making a will or, you know, a trust act, you know, your properties are free for all. No, there's a, you know, by statute, the way that the stuff's going to be distributed. We'll talk about it in 10. But if you usually, and I understand what you said, you know, if you know you're in line to get a piece of property after somebody passes away, you're going to be proactive about it usually. So this power will be if nobody's coming out of the woodwork. The person died intestate. Nobody's rushing to probate court saying, let's get this through probate, so the title to that property, because that's what would officially have to happen before whoever was in line for it. You know, usually probate cases are open 6 months so that any creditors for that estate can come in and make a claim against them, so they get paid off first, and then what other people that were descendants have coming to them, they can get paid. So nobody's crawling out of the woodwork to say, hey, let me go establish that property is supposed to come to me. So what happens is, it reverts, the title to that property reverts to the county, right? I said you can't go wrong with just saying the county that the property is located or situated in. So, you know, we live in trust, and none of our heirs, we either had no heirs or none of them, were coming. I'm starting a court case to probate my estate. Eventually, the Cook County authorities could come in and, as cheat, via their power of as cheat, gain control, gain title of that property. So it's a small law, it's a small power compared to the others. But the point is, right, when you get it on the exam, I'm just being honest, of the whole book, I had personally, all the property law I'd ever learned, like, used that or come across it, and I saw it, and I'm like, what's an excess cheat? Because like everything else, I was like, but I was like, what is that? But once I knew it meant to revert, I had an idea of somebody's title's coming to somebody, right? That's like what's behind it. But, so these are the 4 powers. You could get a question on just one of them. You could get a question on all 4 of them. It's definitely testable material, this stuff.
Can the state like come in? Let's just say this happened, right?
Mm-hmm, sure.
Can the state come in and declare like from the county or the city that they gonna take that property?
I cannot think off the top of my head why that would be allowed. I mean, I'm sure, let me say this for you, because I really don't have a specific example in my mind, but I feel pretty confident saying that if the state wanted to exercise some type of control or power that it had, and it wanted to use it for a state purpose,
right,
I'm sure there's some exception within the law that would allow them, to trump.
Right.
That's just what my gut says. But that power of eminent domain, this is where what came to me, just using the knowledge that I have, what I'm basing it on. That power of an eminent domain, when I say it's the government's right.
The state government.
No, that's what I'm pointing out. The government, City of Chicago's got the power of eminent domain. All towns and villages have the power. The government is instilled, because I usually wait to chapter 3 to say this, but that police power, which is the right to make laws that preserve, protect, and promote, our 3 Ps, it trickles down this way. That's born in the United States Constitution, the power of eminent domain. It is the 5th Amendment to the Constitution. It's called the Takings Clause. That's where the power is born. That, they ask this sometimes, I'll just say it, enabling acts. I usually draw it up on the board. Enabling acts. They delegate the power to the other 50 states' constitutions. And then via something called an enabling act, again, the power's got to be born from somewhere, right? We've got to see the chain of how or entities get rights to do things. Then via an enabling act, the state delegates the power of eminent domain. So I know it's right on to what you're thinking, to all of their governmental entities. And we're going to talk, I'll just stop there, because in chapter 3 they talk about whether you're a home rule unit or not a home rule unit. And so like if you want to get that power, we'll talk a little bit more about it, so to answer your question, I say yes, there's a way, I'm sure, via if they want to take it from the government, they could probably still just call it eminent domain, right? Because the power exists in all the levels of the government.
And it probably would be a difference from county to county too, right?
Well, depending on the process, like I said, is basically the same. The letter will go out as a notice. Like I said, maybe the first letter might have their offer for fair market value, maybe not. It might just be a notice. And then another letter comes later what the offer is of just compensation. And then that's when as long as it wasn't a quick take, that's when you have a right to really go to court, right? If you don't agree if you want to take it, it's a good offer.
You talking about like Cook County take the state of Illinois court?
Oh, no, I was talking about the county taking a private person.
Oh, okay. I'm like,
yeah, because, well, first of all, I don't want to, I love when people have questions, but nothing like that's going to be on the exam. You know what I mean? Like, who can take what? Just knowing what the power is itself, and that any governmental entity can do it. So I'm saying just with my basic knowledge that I'm sure a state can go and take something from, a county, or if the state says we need it, because they trump them. Type of thing.
Okay, cool.
Now this next section, back to how I said, hey, all this property law in the U.S. stems directly from old feudal medieval law. And that word came to me when I couldn't think of it the other day, and I'm like, the peasants that live on the land, they're called serfs, right? It's called serfdom, feudalism. It's like this. So I couldn't believe the word right then. So this whole section on estates and land, it stems straight from all this lingo, that time frame, or where this word fee simple we're about to talk about comes from, and that's straight from that time period. So I want you to know for the exam, you can use synonymously in your mind the word interest for estate. An estate in land, we're going to say it's an interest in land, okay? Estate, estates. But we're going to talk about what threshold we got to get up to be able to consider our interest an estate. So an estate is, it's a higher interest. Let's just say that it's a bigger interest. We're going to talk about the other kind of interest you can have today after we get done with this. But so you can think of an estate in land as an interest in land. Now, historically, estates, that threshold I said we're trying to get up to, the main characteristic of it was that interest, that estate, like I said, possession is the most important right of the deep sea. It had to allow possession, so that type of interest that a person had, it had to allow possession. And then the second concept we need to know to understand what this is